Morning, everybody. Danny here, Soccer Expansion Project. Just to tell you a little bit about the project. I know I've not been online for a little bit, but still plugging along and building a community. We've got a Facebook group and a Twitter following, and I'm still working on building a site that will allow us to all engage a little bit there too. But want to find a way to have this mission where we as coaches, players, and clubs are finding a way to grow the game. And so essentially on this right-hand side, we're working with all the types of things that can go into building the game, building the platforms, building the knowledge, building the pathways for players to help grow it and expand it for everybody, and putting together some folks on the right-hand side that will allow us to do that. We'll work with Soccer Profile and Stuart Carey Monk is one example. The sports site folks coming on board, nutrition, all of these things that would be required to allow us to be good soccer people. And inside of the platform itself, we would obviously develop this community, and our idea of impact, mine of course, is to make sure that we find a way that everyone gets access to this sport, share some expert knowledge, chat support, webinars and PDF presentations, forums, offers and access educational resources. And then folks that are involved in the project can be anybody. Players, coaches, clubs, DOCs, technical directors, parents, fans, anyone else to help us just share what's going on in the world of soccer. So been running some camps this summer, and we worked on a couple of different exercises that I've got to be honest, we riffed them to start with, and they started out a little wobbly at some of the team camps, but they grew into something that I think is pretty useful and hopefully solves a problem. So this is a little bit of a coaching session today. So I know people like that. So inside of the platform here for Soccer Profile, I'm going to pull up this one here. It's an attacking pattern, and this is the big picture setup that we're trying to work within. Once we get to the fact that we are, we're going to work on a little activity. So a pretty typical 4-3-3 in terms of attacking. The yellow team is attacking the green goalkeeper, that kind of thing. That we're looking at trying to find a way to break down, back four plus probably two CDMs, whether they start there or whether one's just come back to help. So we've got the left winger, we've got the centre forward, attacking centre mid, probably a box to box or potentially a CDM, someone that just pivots, and then a right winger. So some of the things that we like to see from our teams, and we run these things as shadow plays and walkthroughs and diagrams. Width to attack is obviously a big one. One of those principles for attacking. So players that might start in wide areas here, especially obviously the wide midfield players, just starts to then bring defenders out to maybe create space or holes for other players to get into, those types of things, right? So we've got width to attack. We've got runs beyond the central defensive midfield players. So here's an example. Here's an attacking central midfield player, and the two CDMs for the other team are here. Once we start to get ball in there, for example, once we get this player running beyond the two central defenders, we now have a problem, or the two centre-backs have to organise quickly if there's room to play, right? So this guy has moved, or this person has moved beyond the two CDMs, and that gets you into a really dangerous spot. Now, I don't see many players in the youth game right now doing that type of thing, but just imagine what this causes right now. We could have a delivery from this person through to a space, all that kind of thing. We could have this person just linking up at some point, but it causes trouble for the two centre-backs, right? This one is worried about this guy, and all of a sudden there's now a bigger hole, right? So that's the next point. Balls through holes, which is a huge one, and something that we as coaches struggle with, because for me, in my eye, I think this comes not naturally, but this is something we can see. So right now, if we were looking to get this right midfield player or right winger on the ball in behind their left back. There's their left back. The idea of this ball going through a hole. So obviously this person started out wide, which has pulled this player a little tight. If they don't get themselves in a great spot, and then maybe they're just too tight, he's probably a little higher, or she's probably a little higher up the field. Right? If they get too tight there, and this player is good enough, this ball through this hole, could be very dangerous to get into the space behind the left back, right? So something to think about here is lots of players we see play this pass that looks something like that. And when that happens, this player may well get on the ball, but they end up potentially facing this way, facing the sideline or facing the end line. You want to think about balls through holes where you're allowing, there's a plane coming over. Hang on a minute, let me pause. Great day for flying in central Pennsylvania. Can't remember what I was saying. Yeah. So we want to think about this ball going through this hole to allow this player to not be facing the sideline, but to be facing the goal, even if it's just a little bit like that. So the angle of this pass is important. So that pass there allows that player to now be facing the goal, much more of a dangerous scenario, right? It happens a lot when you see teams that just knock a ball into a corner flag and the winger gets it facing the corner flag. Well, that's far less dangerous. So balls through holes is the next one. We like to think about, here's another example, attacking centre mid here. So here's a centre forward that's going to make a run. It's a little clever, little off the shoulder run like that. We always like to think about the ball being passed through the opposite channel that the player is in. Not always true, but in these situations we can see this. So if there's a channel here on the left side, on the right side as we look at the left back, there's a channel here between centre back, left back, there's a channel here, there's a channel here, there's a channel there. All I'm asking these players to do is to pass the ball in the opposite channel. So if this ball goes there, this player still has work to do. And that ball, by the way, has got to be really good. And if this central defender's any good, they'll find a way just to drop in there and they're still 1v1. They've not got past them, right? But if this ball goes through an opposite channel, so this is the channel that this forward is not in right now, and it's got a little craft on it, a little bend on it, something a little clever, right? Or the weight of that pass make the ball bigger. Did we want a bigger soccer ball? I think so. Right? And we put the ball through an opposite channel. This represents a much more of a dangerous situation because now we've beaten that player, that defender, with a pass rather than the person having to dribble. So we've obviously then got the combos and forward movements, but these are the things that we're looking for in these situations. Combo, attacking centre mid, one in there, ball in there, run in there, ball through an opposite channel, right? Got the 1-2 going. We can have ball into a winger just here, attacking centre mid is round the outside. We've now got a 2v1. So there's the combos. So those are the things that we are considering in the next little diagram that we're about to do, which is the setup, which is the thing that we practiced over the summer with a lot of teams that we work with. And again, it morphed itself into something that was useful. I'll be honest, it didn't start out great, but we changed it a few things, and overall we liked it. So let me just pull that one up. And here's the setup for that activity. A couple of layers to it, and I'll be as quick as I can so the video is not too long for you. Pause for the whole activity. Let's pull that one up. Okay. So here it is. Here's the setup, right? So we've got 3 targets in cones, and this might be about 20 yards by 20 yards or 30 by 30. You can make it as big as you can to make it a bit more realistic to the game. 3 targets. This might be a left winger, this might be a centre forward, and this might be a right winger. We always talk to the players about relevance. So here's an activity about passing the ball and finding gaps and things like that. But let's talk about players on the field. And we stick in 2 defenders who we ask the defenders to start kind of in a central position, so they're not up in here, pressing like that, especially if you've got players here that technically might not be great and they need a little space and time to figure out what they're going to do. But this, we ask them to work on a passing exercise. So we're talking about this player coming out with the ball. So it's 1 player to start with, and we're asking them just to pick a target, right? Can we get the ball at some point to that player? Can we get the ball to that player? There's that ball through a hole. Can we get the ball to that player? Let's say they put the ball into that player there. This player now leaves that station, just comes all the way back around, and then the player that passed it ends up taking their place. So that's the rotation. So what starts to happen, if you bring the ball back, is it starts to get a little easy, depending on how good these players are, and they get tired a little bit. But again, this player's shifted that way, this player's shifted that way. We're then asking this attacking central midfield player, typically, pop it into that target. And there's a moment where the players will start to go, well, this is easy. And we start to say things like, well, yeah, there's based on the movement of this player and the movement of that player and the hold up player, that player, this could well be quite easy, presuming, of course, that they've just got 2 in here that's stopping this pass. We then start to ask the players to consider this type of thing, which is to be showing this way. So can they add a little disguise to this pass? Can they be looking this way to have that person slide over? and then at the last second just close the hips off and just disguise it and go that way. Kind of cool, right? Can we spot times when this player might just be in a wrong position, and can we thread that ball? And that's one of the things I think we started with this one, is how good are we at literally threading these balls in behind two CDMs? And again, this could translate to two centre backs at some point. But how good are we at literally splitting the difference? And we talk about that. So player here, let's say this centre forward is moving centre forward here. I would be asking this player to look at the distance between these two players and put the ball immediately in the middle of them. Make sure that ball goes behind. Don't just beat them just about, because this person is athletic, could get there and block it. We said a lot. Give them an equal opportunity of missing this pass or missing the block. Ball through a hole, right? So those types of things. So pretty straightforward. It starts to get easy. Rotate who's the defenders, just using a couple of pennies. This starts to get a bit cooler, if that's a generic word, not a very good one, when we start to add a second player. Now you might think that, okay, well, this now gets way easier because we're now 5 versus 2. But what starts to happen is the players start to now have to think about, well, how can this player influence these two players? And what's going to happen? We have another plane coming right there. I just paused that, not for the noise, it's like looking at planes when they're flying right above our house. So anyway, so how can these two influence these two? So one thing to think about is this high-low opportunity and also the width to start. So let's make this relevant. Let's say that this is a box-to-box central midfield player, and here's an attacking central midfield player. So if we start with some width, so we might ask the players to split. Now what the players will start to do is immediately pass the ball straight away, and that's one thing. But just to think about what we're trying to do, the goal of this activity is to split the ball or get the ball and the player, maybe in a minute, behind two CDMs. So again, you could just pop the ball there, piece of cake, right? That ball could go, not a problem. That's the first thing we did. We could switch the ball here. How quickly this person slides over, how quickly then can we just open up and just get it in there? The fact that this player might not start here, right? Easier to defend at least, or block the passes. If this person gets out here, I think this really helps a lot of our teams. When the two attacking central type players split, this CDM now is in trouble, because if they go in here, this ball just comes here and then it's there. Or if this CDM goes here, right, then this ball can just get popped into that player there because we made a hole. So that's pretty straightforward. Split to start, right, that kind of thing. That's what I phrased it there. But the next part is this. Once the ball goes into, say, this player, what do we do next? So now the game becomes not just to hit it into a target. Now the game is to get the ball into the centre forward. All right? So, and it's not allowed to come from this player to start with. So what happens? Ball goes there. This person starts to drop in. This person starts to get in. As that ball gets passed, we're now looking at a high-low situation. So we're now looking at that attacking central midfield player to come in here, and if we're quick enough, ball there, in there, and we've scored. Right? And again, it's not necessarily realistic to a goal, but it's just getting the idea that this player can pass and move, or we've got to run off the ball. So here's another one. So ball into that player there. Player starts to move. Join in, get past. What does this player do? You've now given them something to think about. Ball into this player, knock into the middle. Here we go. We're meeting that pass, and we start to get these great little combos. All right. So the next one we like to just add, the next wrinkle, and I don't think I've even put it on here, is that we can start to then change things. So if this person's blocking here and this person's in a decent spot, can we find some activity now from a wide player? What if we allow the wide players to come out here and just show at that angle there? We can still play, right? So now we've got forwards or wide players starting to link up. Ball could go in there, right? We could then just jump in and get the next one, right? Or we could play combos off of the forward, right? We'll just go straight into the centre forward. We'll all knock back, whatever it might be. I've just made that soccer ball tiny. And if that's how it ends up being for the rest of the thing, it's going to be really weird. Let me just get rid of that. Get the soccer ball. So, there are lots of ways to play around with this, but essentially we are finding ways to trouble, if that's the right word, these two CDMs. The other thing that starts to happen, I've got 2 soccer balls on here now. What is going on? I failed at my, let's put this one off to the side. The other thing that can start to happen is we can get into situations where the two CDMs just sink in. I think that's a phrase that's used quite often. Balls come to that player there. Okay. This player, again, we're trying to hit that centre forward, and there's now no room to get in there, right? So we then got this high-low situation. So what do? Okay, we'll just pivot. We'll just come out this way, right? Maybe get out that way. Maybe draw that player out somewhat. Maybe get into a space quickly there. Maybe we come and this person just shows underneath here, and we can come here. This person can hit the ball through a hole, so this person might come and block that, right? Now all of a sudden we've made space behind. Bang, 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 right? So there are lots and lots of ways to make this work. And the last one I put on here, well, again, we're asking these wide players here just to come to feet. So it's not necessarily a 1v1 game for them. It's just a link-up game. Is the idea of what I call a dink pass. And, you know, Messi's really good at this, but it's something to consider. And that is that if you've got somebody that's attacking these players here and you get close, right, get to that position where they've closed you down, the space between that, I can't show this on the video, but the space between their knee and their armpit is really difficult to deal with. Such that if you're looking at just a tiny pass in there, right, if this goes along the ground, there's a chance that they stretch or whatever else, but maybe you're going to split these two here. They look like this. You've got this opportunity, right? Again, if you lift this ball or dink this ball or just lift it in between their knees and their armpits, defenders can't get their heads there in time. You might think of them leaning down, use their arms even. But you get attacking centre mids with the ability to play that pass, just a little dink of a ball, we're in business. So, pretty long video, but here's that setup. Hopefully it helps. And again, you can play around with this. You can add a third defender if you want. But you can start to coach the idea of all of those things for attacking play, typically in that 4-3-3 as it looks right now. But the thing I really like about this is just the way that you can start to get one of your attacking central midfield players to get beyond these two CDMs, and that really starts to create some trouble. And then just the practice of having passes miss out CDMs. And if you think about your teams right now, how many times have you tried to go into a centre forward or tried to go behind a back four or tried to go to a wide player and you've hit the defender? Well, now we're talking about angles. Now we're talking about balls through holes, all of those types of things. And it's just a good practice for that. So yeah, cheers. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go and watch a few more planes and get ready for Leicester City tomorrow. Can't see my shirt. There we go. 7 in the morning US time. Can't wait. Cheers.